There we go. Of the James City County Clean County Commission, folks who listen in there, and then also anyone who might not have been able to attend, whether in person for the wonderful person that did, and also anyone online, so that we can disperse it after this. But over the course of the evening, we'll hear from 3 people, one representative from the city of Williamsburg, another from James City County, and then actually 4 people in total, 2 representatives, Rob and Fernando, from the Institute for Integrative Conservation at the College of William and Mary, talking about some of their work and conservation locally in Virginia. But I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce Emma ZM, teacher ZM, for really having the impetus of this idea. Emma is just retired from the James City County Clean County Commission, what I like to call the J+C, and has a lot of experience with conservation locally, and had the idea to have an event like this. So Emma, if you want to say a couple words.
Thanks, Caleb. Thanks everyone for joining on Zoom or in person. We know that it's tough on a weeknight sometimes to get out, so we're excited to have people, got more people coming in, joining us virtually. However you can make it, we're happy to have you. Today, again, this is a part of a 3-part series kind of. Today we're going to focus a little bit on what we're doing locally, what groups and individuals are doing locally with regards to conservation, mainly being the city of Williamsburg, James City County, and then the IIC. I'm really personally excited to hear from you guys. And then I highly recommend to kind of keep with this mindset, since we are working through the library. Kind of our book of the night is Doug Ptolemy's Nature's Best Hope. So if you're feeling really inspired after hearing all these words tonight, and you want to make an impact in your own backyard, I highly recommend it. It's a great read, and I'd be happy to talk through book club style with anybody who wants to do that. But we're going to start off with Caleb talking a little bit about what the city of Williamsburg has been up to, and then I'll do a quick tell everyone about what the Clean County Commission has been up to, and then we'll move into our newest members on the block of making sure that Williamsburg and our local area is doing what we should be doing.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Emma. I'm going to do my best for those virtually and those in person to maybe shift around a little bit. So I hope the voice is projecting enough to at least make sure that Stuart and everyone else on the call can hear. But my name is Caleb Rogers. I'm a member of the Williamsburg City Council, and have been a resident here in Williamsburg since 2016, which is when I came to William and Mary, and I've decided to really make it my home. And I've loved life as a young adult now, leaving college and working part-time with the City Council. Environmentalism is really core to what I'd like to make a career out of for me. So while council is part-time, my full-time role is with a clean energy company called Voltus, which makes sure that energy is used as efficiently as it can through demand response. So a lot of this is very core to me. I'm still very much learning, and I like to tell people, and I know that IIC does the same, that it's a big task to try to address climate change. And while we have some actual experts in the room, especially those that are younger or those that are maybe just learning about this, it's okay to not be an expert as long as you're diving in with your time, whether that is from a full-time career standpoint or using some of the giveaway seeds we have in the back to plant a little garden outside. So without further ado, a couple of projects that the city of Williamsburg is working on I wanted to touch on. They are community projects, energy efficiency related projects, and then our master sustainability plan, which is in the works. And I won't be too long here, but there's 2 in each of the first 2. On the community projects, one thing that we're very proud of, and being a small city in Williamsburg, is our bike ability. From 2017 to 2021, Williamsburg was rated as the gold standard for municipalities around the country for being a very bikeable city, which is from the Soul Smart community. Every 4 years, they allow for localities to apply for this recognition, and it's one that Williamsburg was very happy to have. It's one that we're investing in more so through multi-use trails, such as the one just implemented on Monticello Road, and it's an accolade that we are applying for again for 2021 to 2025. The second thing that we do is a lot of recycling in Williamsburg. All our public works department makes sure that its vehicles, the oil it's collecting, the tires it recycles are done in a sustainable way. But we also make sure to have a robust recycling program in the city so that any resident can have a recycling bin, and that recycling is picked up once every 2 weeks. And I personally live in a house with 8 people. We have 2 recycling bins, and we make sure it gets to the road on time. So it's something that I think our residents really rely on and enjoy. On to the energy transition. It has been a buzzword for years now to be LEED certified. LEED certified is a designation given to infrastructure based on a building's water efficiency, its energy usage, such as lights that turn off by themselves when there is no motion in the room. And Williamsburg's very happy to have the building which we are in now, which is the Stryker Center, and our building for our municipal employees, which is the city's municipal building, as both LEED certified silver. But on top of that, we're also trying to transition some of our other cities' infrastructure into more green, energized forms, such as LED lighting in our parking garage, which is another investment we've made locally. And then we also have a couple of places that I passed in driving here where there are crosswalks along the roads, and anyone who's crossing the street has a little button to hit. All of those buttons and other little local signs in Williamsburg are mostly powered by solar panels. That way there's no underground connectivity that they need significantly. The final piece is kind of what's up in the air, which is the sustainability plan that we're working towards. Williamsburg was rated from the VML, Virginia Municipals League, as a environmentally friendly city. That was our designation. It has been for the last couple of years, but VML is no longer rating localities. And we as a city have started to wonder, what's the next ladder of environmentalism that we can climb? It's important to be bike friendly. It's important to recycle. It's also important to quantify your greenhouse gas emissions and see how you can reduce those in accordance with the Paris Climate Accords to 0%, hopefully carbon-free by 2050 and half by 2030. So what I'm saying is there are larger goals that we'd now like to accomplish as a city, and we have a newly formed committee within our department heads in the municipal building over in the building this way, which are now discussing how can we become even more environmentally friendly, and basing some of that conversation off of Virginia communities such as Blacksburg and Fredericksburg and Charlottesville, which have done an entire greenhouse gas audit. So that's being led by Michelle DeWitt. She is our assistant city manager, and we should have a full-fledged Williamsburg sustainability plan, which will be the first of its kind in the city, at least sometime in 2022. So I'll pause there as the efforts from the city of Williamsburg. We're very excited to start being even more ambitious for a small town in our environmental projects. We're glad to have had designations in the past, but looking forward to really trying to meet the moment and try to surmount the challenge of climate change in the city. So I believe we have a representative from J Quintuple C.
So actually, I was wondering
pass things off to Emma.
if you guys are okay with rearranging, if you don't mind going next. I'll make this, I'll pull it up for y'all. Awesome. Thanks so much, Caleb. That's awesome.
Are you ready for it now?
Very amazing. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. All right. Next up, we have our representatives from the Institute of Integrative Conservation at William and Mary. So thank you. Is that right?
Screen sharing is paused.
Oh, resume share maybe then. The top
Resume
right.
share.
Yeah.
Oh, I think what we need to do is share screen.
Oh, I see.
Pick
Yes. It's been a while.
Let's just do it this way. That way everything gets,
Or is that?
well, now it doesn't matter, whatever you, there we go.
Oh, wow, learn something new every day. Thanks.
So, hey, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Robert Rose. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Integrative Conservation. I've been in William and Mary for 6 years now, and prior to that, I was at the Wildlife Conservation Society as a conservation geographer for 7 years. So my background is really conservation and global conservation. And I know Caleb mentioned climate change, and that's an important part of what we look at, but the Institute for Integrative Conservation is much broader than just looking at climate change. And so I'm going to discuss sort of more generally what we hope to do, why we think this is important, and how we're going to do it, Also with me is my colleague. Do you want to introduce yourself? That's easier.
Yes, hello, good evening. My name is Fernando Galeana Rodriguez. I am a new hire. I was hired as an assistant professor at the IIC and the Department of Sociology. And I'm a development sociologist, and I focus on the social aspects of conservation, specifically working with indigenous communities. And I just recently joined William and Mary.
And so we're going to talk both about the Institute for Integrative Conservation and why it's launched and what we hope to do, and then dig into a few projects with a specific focus on environmental justice. So to give some background, when we started thinking about this, we recognized the intrinsic value of biodiversity on Earth. And I think we could all agree on how important that is. It's the foundation of healthy ecosystems around the globe, and the services they provide, and are directly linked to many of the industries and livelihoods that we all depend on. These ecosystems help mitigate climate change and natural disasters, and they're the basis for our food supply chains, filter air and water, and serve as inspiration and foundation for art, culture, and ways of knowing. And we certainly understand that humans are inextricably linked to the diversity of the environment. And so with that idea, conservationists are beginning to recognize that solutions to the conservation challenges that we're faced globally require new approaches that promote biodiversity and the benefit it provides to all human communities. And with these new approaches, we envision a future where people and nature are justly connected and the natural environment is conserved for future generations. And to achieve this vision, we need this integrative approach to conservation solutions, solutions that move beyond traditional methods of conservation that have been practiced over the past 100 years that overall haven't been working as well as we hope them to work. These approaches, these integrated approaches, are rooted in ideas of justice and are scalable and transformable to our relationship to the environment. We also believe that human ingenuity and effective partnerships, as well as the application of expertise across sectors and the inclusion of all people, will find solutions to these global conservation challenges. And with those ideas in mind, we proposed the idea of the Institute for Integrative Conservation. And this really started in 2019. We were approached by an alumna who has a strong connection to conservation and asked our leadership what William and Mary was doing around conservation. And could we propose an idea that was integrative, new, and can change conservation the way it's practiced around the world? So myself and my partner, Dr. John Swaddle, came together. We wrote this proposal in 2019. And at the end of the year, the donor approved the funding for 10 years to launch the Institute. Jump ahead. And so now we've launched. We're at 221 North Boundary Street. We're just up the street here. We love when people stop by and say hello, so please do stop by at any time. But we launched in January of 2020. We launched with the mission to cultivate an inclusive community of creative leaders to deliver innovative solutions to these pressing conservation challenges around the globe. And we really hope to achieve this mission in two particular ways. One, finding opportunities to work with external conservation partners to address conservation challenges and bring integrative solutions and integrative teams to these conservation challenges. And two, build diversity in conservation and build opportunities to bring more voices to conservation, which have been sorely lacked up till now. So why William and Mary? Why is William and Mary the right place to take on these global conservation challenges? Well, first, we have the capacity, expertise, and nimbleness to work across disciplines. If you look across William and Mary, and this includes arts and sciences, the Virginia Institute of Marine Sciences, the School of Law, the School of Business, and the School of Education, we have people in every one of these schools that are working on conservation issues. And because of the way the Institute is set up, we're not in any one of these schools. We actually fall under the Provost's office. We have the flexibility to work with people from across all the different schools on campus. Two, we certainly have crucial strengths in areas of life, physical, environmental, data, geospatial, and political sciences. So some of the root and foundational sciences that we need to bring to conservation, we have those expertise here at William & Mary. Certainly we have a diverse and engaged student body. We have the best students in the world, and they're eager to apply what they know to solving real world challenges, and in this case, real world conservation challenges. So it's a wonderful place to teach. It's a wonderful place to launch projects because you give students a little bit of an idea and they get to run with it. I think of it as giving them the seed and they grow the whole plant for the solution. We have strong ties to conservation communities. So I came from the conservation world and I've maintained those ties. And so one of the first things we did when we launched was reach back out to those conservation communities to begin building these external partnerships in our external conservation network. And we believe that everything that we do is rooted in the values of William & Mary around belonging, integrative approaches, real world impact, and compassionate, developing compassionate leaders. So when we designed the Institute, this was one of the first diagrams we put together. This is the idea, one of the ideas of integrative conservation. And the idea here is that the IIC kind of sits in the middle between, move this a little bit so everyone can see, sits in between William & Mary and the 5 different schools at William & Mary, and connections to the outside world, conservation NGOs, federal agencies and administrations, international government organizations, other universities, and even private corporations, and figure out ways to integrate across those disciplines and across those outside partners to identify opportunities to address these conservation challenges. And if we could do that, we could advance this idea of integrative solutions to conservation problems. And when we think about integrative solutions, we think about how we could bring these different disciplines together to solve a particular issue. So we bring social scientists together along with data scientists and biologists to really apply that diversity of knowledge to some of these conservation challenges. And if we do that, we really believe we can address some of these global conservation challenges around the world. And so one of the things that we've done over the past year since our launch is really develop a strategic plan. And this really lays out our 4 goals in our strategic plan. They include building a wide network of integrative conservation partners. And from the previous slide, you can see that we work across multiple sectors to try to identify those external conservation partners. Second, we hope to grow a diverse conservation talent pipeline. One of the things that we often find missing, especially at leadership positions in conservation organizations, is much diversity at all. And so finding opportunities both internally to William & Mary to bring a diverse group of students into the IIC, as well as identifying opportunities to build leadership around the world on conservation issues. Third, we hope to develop field-based sites for place-based learning and conservation. So through our network of partners, we hope to identify some field locations where our students can apply what they're learning in the classroom to actual conservation problems on the ground. And finally, help bridge that knowledge action gap. So figure out how we can take these real world solutions, identify them, and then bring them back to the conservation community. So everything that we do is focused on supportive conservation. We're not conducting research for our own knowledge or to write papers. We really want our work to be applied to conservation around the world. And so here's a little bit about our conservation approach. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is preserve biodiversity and the natural systems that they live in. But we use different lenses to look at that biodiversity and understand how these lenses can help us work towards improved ecosystems. And they include looking at the communities that live in and around these natural areas and understanding how they approach conservation issues in their own backyard and using their ways of knowing to drive our conservation solutions. And the second lens is this idea of well-being. We believe that people who are healthy and have sustainable livelihoods in and around these natural places will be more supportive of conservation efforts And together, if we build this idea of integrative conservation, we feel we'll have better conservation outcomes in the long run. So I want to dig in a little bit to some of the programs that we've launched just in the past couple of years, or year and a half. And we think some of these are really the basis of what we'll be doing moving forward. And the first and probably most important one is our conservation research program. And the idea of the conservation research program really grew out of this idea of helping conservation partners to the point where we now field applications from external organizations to apply for the opportunity to work with students and faculty on a year-long conservation challenge. So through our external network, we identify and invite partners to submit an application. Those are received early in the fall semester. We go through these. I think this year we had 35 applications. We have 16 slots that we can actually work on. And we narrowed those down to find the 16 best projects that we think an integrative solution can actually be applied to these projects. And we then go through a process of inviting students to apply to be part of this program. And once accepted, they start this spring. They'll write a proposal on their project for the spring. In the summer, they have a research stipend to actually conduct the research with the partner. They'll be working alongside the partner throughout this program. And in the fall, they actually write it up. They present on their final work. And if you go to our website, you can actually see some of the previous presentations. I think this is a real strength of what we're trying to do here, because it gives the students the real world grounding in conservation applications and provides support to those conservation partners. A few of the examples of projects that have run over the past year, and hopefully you see the diversity in the projects that we're trying to bring together. And they include Christina Savicek, who's been working with Conservation International on a study to identify how lands managed by Indigenous peoples are supporting ecosystem services around the globe. So she's been working with Conservation International to basically develop a data set of lands held and managed by Indigenous peoples, and then analyze the impact those have on the environment. Melissa Makuna, I'll talk a little more about this project in a moment, because it's one of our local projects, has been working on a proposal for conservation at Highland, the James Monroe land out near Charlottesville. Madeline Bertinoli has been working with a partner in Ecuador to develop a sustainable business plan for vanilla at that site. And finally, Emilio Lozrica has been working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and USGS on an approach to count sandhill cranes from thermal images. So one of the big challenges in conservation has always been counting critters on the ground. And U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has been flying the Platte River. Every spring, the sandhill cranes roost on the Platte River, and they need to count them to set their management plans. They collect thermal imagery, so basically the heat that these give off. And Emilio has been using artificial intelligence machine learning to count those automatically, significantly reducing the effort to understand how many sandhill cranes are roosting and help U.S. Fish and Wildlife set their management plan for these cranes moving forward. So a little more specifically on the Highlands project, because it is in our backyard and we're eager to support projects in and around Virginia. This project really started last year. It's going to continue over this next year. But the first phase of this project was to develop this proposal on an integrative field conservation station. And so the idea is to set these objectives, one, to promote the integration of Highland into the William and Mary experience, so find opportunities to bring Highland, because it is a William and Mary property, into William and Mary and find more opportunities for students and faculty to engage at Highland. And then second, identify opportunities to enhance Highland's projects, so whatever projects they have, find ways to bring more conservation into some of these projects. Identify new opportunities for ventures at this property. So how can the property be sustainable over time? And finally, empower students and faculty to use Highland as a resource for their own research and exploration. So they've been working on this over this last year and are now writing up the final proposal, but have been working very closely with the Highlands team. And they kind of came up with 3 significant areas that the proposal will cover. including place-based education for William and Mary students, as well as people living near the Highlands campus. Second, it will serve potentially as a field station for conservation and sustainability programs and research with students and faculty from William and Mary. And finally, a field station for environmental justice. And they've been working closely with the Council of Descendant Advisors to identify how we can be more inclusive around issues of environmental justice at the Highlands campus. And so we think this is an incredibly important program, the Conservation Research Program, that will continue to support in the coming years and continue to support our external partners with these opportunities. And it's important because it does build those joint ventures. It builds our relationship with these conservation partners. And we hope we'll build more opportunities for expanded conservation with those partners in the future. It certainly helps our students and young professionals build research and professional skills. Our students love this program. They are so eager to talk about it. Hopefully we can share some of the links to some of the student presentations, but they've been just incredible in terms of their engagement with our partners and with these conservation projects. We do hope it'll help us develop long-term research sites, and we're starting to see some of those evolve as we have projects coming back for a second year now to identify more opportunities. And then always help bridge that knowledge action gap. Help lead research is going to help those conservation partners on the ground. And so this was a quote. We worked last year with the Wildlife Conservation Society. It was one of the projects that student Kat Bagansky worked on. And we have this quote from Jeremy Radichowski, who was the contact at the WCS on this project. So he said we came to William & Mary with a real conservation problem, and the tools that Kat brought to this project in joint conservation thinking and mapping are really useful. This project was really looking at the expansion and restoration of forested areas in the Mesoamerica landscape. So trying to use geospatial tools to identify where we can increase forests across this sort of Central American landscape. And Jeremy was just thrilled to have this opportunity to work with Kat, and certainly Kat greatly appreciated this opportunity to work with WCS. The other thing that we're doing is starting an integrative conservation curriculum. By next year, we'll launch a major in integrative conservation. And the idea here is just to bring all our ideas around integrative conservation and give an opportunity for a cohort of students to actually major in integrative conservation. And the conservation major will provide students the opportunity to collaborate across William & Mary and with external organizations. Certainly broaden the diversity of conservation majors because we want to bring in students from all across campus. We expect that'll broaden diversity in conservation. We expect it to be a place-based learning, which is so important for students right now to actually be able to go out and see the conservation projects they're working on and understand how to apply local context to some of these conservation challenges. And finally, they'll be doing applied research through this program. All students will have a capstone project that they'll work directly with an external partner on, and that'll be the applied research component. So with that introduction to the IIC, I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Fernando. He's going to talk a little more about environmental justice.
Thank you, Rob. Well, environmental justice is one of the lenses that the IIC is using to promote integrative conservation. The EPA defines environmental justice as the meaningful participation and fair treatment of all people, regardless of race, color, income, national origin, in the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental regulations, laws, and policies. And it is really something that is very important to integrate what Rob mentioned as the community lenses and the well-being lenses to protect biodiversity. So the environmental justice movement, it emerged from the struggles of African American communities in the US who were fighting inequalities in their own backyards, such as the seeding of different waste treatment facilities, incinerators, and so on. It has now been also taken as a framework that has really been implemented globally for different communities to articulate their demands and their struggles for a healthier and cleaner environment. So the principles of environmental justice are really broader, and they center on grassroots action to fight for a better environment. And they can really guide how to facilitate community-based approaches to planning and management and conservation, while enhancing the resilience and sustainability of communities, both locally and abroad. So approaching integrative conservation from the lens of environmental justice involves paying attention to three dimensions. First, issues of equity in the distribution of burdens and benefits related to conservation initiatives. We need to be asking the question of who bears the cost of environmental destruction, and also for the solutions that we propose to conserve nature. Then we also need to examine the underlying causes of maldistribution, pay attention to those structures, cultural beliefs, and institutional contexts that generate inequities in society. In other words, we also need to be asking why are communities marginalized in the first place. Then thirdly, we need to consider those institutional processes that, and make sure that they're fair and equitable. We need to be asking if we are creating those democratic spaces for decision-making in conservation. And in the particular case of indigenous communities, we need to be asking if we are respecting their right to free, prior, and informed consent. It is important to consider how these three dimensions, how they come to be in a discussion of how indigeneity intersects with climate justice. The term climate justice has emerged to explain how those who are least responsible for climate change tend to suffer its gravest consequences. This applies particularly to indigenous people. Understanding the future of climate justice is not only about how the livelihoods and survival of indigenous peoples will be affected, but also how indigenous leadership is necessary for climate change policies to succeed for all of us. Indigenous people around the world can and are already playing an important role in climate change assessment, mitigation, adaptation, and governance. Indigenous peoples are responsible for protecting an estimated 22% of the planet's surface and 80% of its biodiversity. Research also suggests that these levels of biodiversity are equal, if not higher, in areas that are a greater indigenous presence. However, despite this recognition of indigenous people's contributions, there are serious gaps in their involvement in generated climate solutions, and exclusion remains the norm. Indigenous people have already diagnosed, assessed, and offered their own solutions to a warming climate, as exemplified by indigenous environmental and climate change declarations at international, national, and local levels over the years. So really what we have to do is that we have much to learn about recognizing these indigenous knowledge systems and their strategies for sustainable livelihoods, as we recognize how indigenous people recognize nature as being part of Mother Earth, as having a right that must be respected, and this should be recognized in government formulated policies and legal processes. In my own work at the IAC, I explored these questions in the case of the formalization of indigenous land tenure in the region of Mosquitia in Honduras. This is a region of rich biodiversity in tropical forests that is home to 4 indigenous groups. It's also a region that is being threatened by land grabbing, by the expansion of African palm plantations, and also by the advancement of the colonization front. The Honduran government has ignored the land rights of the Miskito people throughout decades, and as a result of that, they have really faced the disproportionate effect of environmental degradation in their communities that comes from this misrecognition of their land rights and from the absence of procedures to enable democratic participation in decision making. Even after obtaining land titles over the traditional homelands, many gaps still remain in the enforcement of the protections to defend indigenous lands and their environment. The work that we do here at the IAC is focused on helping partners such as the Miskito organizations to strengthen their capabilities to be able to advance in an integrated conservation agenda. Also, I want to briefly talk about how we are developing an environmental justice curriculum here at the IAC. So this is my first semester as an assistant professor here on William and Mary, and I'm currently teaching a class on environmental justice that is really based on interactive teaching, where the students they engage with the history and also with the different applications of environmental justice in a variety of different cases. And this is something that we want to emphasize, that the students are able to also see in the classroom how these tools can be applied towards real world conservation issues that also intersect with social and racial justice. So just to give an example of some of the interests that the students have been pursuing as part of the class, I have one student that analyzed what would be the effect of some of the flooding resilience plans that are being implemented in the city of Norfolk, and how they do provide for mitigation measures for an adaptation to flooding, but how they could also have inadvertent effects on the communities on low-income communities, particularly because many of the residents in the city of Norfolk are renters, or they live in affordable housing. And many of the compensation that is being provided as part of these flooding resilience plans will only provide a compensation to the owners of these buildings, with lots of with raising questions about what will happen with the displacement of these populations. Also, I have another student that pursue the interest in understanding the struggles of the Union Hill community, which is a predominantly African American community in Buckingham, that they fought the decision for the approval of a compressor station that was going to be part of the Atlantic coastal pipeline, and they were successful in reverting that decision, and we'll be using that as an example of local action in environmental justice. And also in the future, like, we hope that we can continue to build on this experience, both in the classroom, and also that we can create spaces for the students to be able to partner and to provide assistance to local organizations to help them advance with their own particular environmental struggles. I'm going to pass it back to my colleague, Rob.
So I'm sure you're all thinking to yourself, wow, this sounds awesome. How do I get involved? And so let me give you some ways to get involved. One, we have a listserv, and we'd love for you to join the listserv. And it's easy to join. Just visit us at www.wm.edu/conservation, not spelled the way I have it spelled on the slide, spelled like conservation is supposed to be spelled. You can also email us at iic@wm.edu, and we'd be happy to add you to the listserv. That way you'll hear about a lot of our upcoming events. We have a 2022 conservation series, a conservation speaker series coming up. That's going to focus on Indigenous voices in conservation. We'll also be able to connect you with different projects that are going on. And we're always looking for advice on projects, partnerships, and even mentors for our students from the local community. And we'd be thrilled to have you as part of the IIC mentorship network. So we're looking for ways, in addition, to help build our IIC network. So if you know of conservation projects or people that might want to talk to us about external conservation projects, please don't hesitate to reach out. But join that listserv, and then you'll at least hear about upcoming events. We also have a podcast, and we'd love for you to listen to our podcast. This is, we just released the second season. This is a podcast put together by Professor Dorothy Ebis, as well as two students, Anna Kashmanian and Ann Turner. And season 1, which came out last year, focuses on shad fishing in the Pamunkey, and really dives into this idea of multiple ways of knowing from the past, present, and the future. Our second season, which actually was just released a few weeks ago, focuses on gender and conservation and interviews 3 conservation leaders as 3 different episodes within season 2. That's available on Spotify and Google Podcasts, and we'd love to get your feedback if you have a chance to listen to that as well. And so, like I said, we're always looking for alumni, parents, community members who want to be part of our external conservation network. And it's not just that you have a direct link to conservation activity. We're looking for community members who are interested in serving as professional mentors with expertise across all kinds of professional skills, from entrepreneurship and business and fundraising to some of the conservation issues that we discussed today. So please think about us if you want to get involved with the IIC. Just go ahead and check out our website. You'll see a lot more about what we do and how we do it. You'll see some videos from past events and student speakers, and you'll see how to sign up for our listserv to get involved. So we certainly appreciate your time, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. If not, we look forward to seeing you sometime soon, either at the IIC or one of our upcoming events. Thank you.
I can just briefly address those listening. Thank you so much, Bob and Fernando, for addressing some of the work that you all are doing. I'm going to kick it off to let those in attendance ask questions, and certainly willing to sit in silence until someone comes up with a question. But if not, I know I have a couple myself too. So if anyone listening in has a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and shoot, or put it into the chat.
I'll say one of the comments in the chat was that this makes someone want to go back to college, and I totally agree.
Never too late.
Yeah.
We're going to have our first cohort of students, next official cohort. We do have students who are now doing a self-design major in integrative conservation, because we have enough classes now that we're teaching that a student can actually do that.
Wow. And is that on the trajectory to go towards a full, not just a self-design major, but to be one of the tracks?
Yeah, so
awesome.
we'll be fully approved, we hope, within a couple years. Next year, we'll launch under the interdisciplinary studies track, but we'll be a full major within the next few years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, I'll jump in with a question. One of the interesting things I think you all will grapple with over the next few years is how to tell the story of conservation. What does that mean? Is it climate change related? How does it have to do with people that are indigenous communities and dealing with environmental justice to our locality here in Williamsburg? And a really interesting way you've come up with is to potentially have the city's first mural. Could you talk a little bit about the process that's gone into this and maybe the intended vision of having a mural in Williamsburg?
Yeah, sure. So a year or two ago, a year and a half ago, we connected with an alum from the business school who started an augmented reality company in Colombia. He's Colombian, and we just got connected to him through someone here at the business school. And when we spoke to him, he mentioned that he had done this huge mural in Columbus, Ohio, on the side of the Graduate Hotel. I think it's Columbus, Ohio. And they, over on top of the mural, the painted mural, is this augmented reality. So if you hold your phone up to it, all these images kind of fly out of it. And we thought this would be a great opportunity to get students involved who are on the more artistic side and who wanted to kind of tell a conservation story through art, which is a great way to talk about conservation and hopefully connect people to nature, which we think is an important task that we should be focused on. And so we came up with this idea that we would try to have a mural here in Williamsburg where students would design the mural, they'd paint the mural, and then they'd work with the augmented reality company to overlay some basically Instagram filters on top of that. So you get more engaged with the story of conservation. So we had a competition for students, and I think we had 6 teams submit design ideas and present their ideas, and one was selected. And so we've been in the process of working to find a location and hopefully get this mural painted with the augmented reality to soon follow.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. So cool. Thank you guys for everything you guys do. That's incredible. And thanks for sharing with us today.
Thanks for joining, having us or inviting us to join you.
Thank you.
We do have one more group to hear from. Tim is here to represent the Clean County Commission of James City County, a group that I was until recently part of. Then my term ran out, but I still am involved.
Former co-chair.
Yeah, former co-chair. I just want to make sure that everyone can see this. Oh, yeah. I'll fix that. Hold on,
Okay.
sorry.
You gotta reshare, I think.
You
I
know
stopped
that?
the share.
Thank you. Awesome. So we are going to chat a little bit about the various, initiatives that go on in James City County. But first to introduce what is the Clean County Commission. I don't know if you want to explain who are the commissioners, Tim?
We are board-approved representatives for the city of sorry, I work in Newport News. So we are nominated. We apply through applications, and then if we got a passion for the 3 R's, we end up here and with like minds.
Yeah, so it's, we work closely with the county, the Board of Supervisors, the various commissions, but the Clean County Commission is pretty unique and awesome in that it's all volunteer based. And so it's volunteer based, but working closely with the county. So one of the initiatives that's run every year is our Good Neighbor Grant Award.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is from 2020, but I'm sorry, 2019. But any organization, typically the homeowners associations, but it can be just normal neighborhoods, can apply for this grant. It's $500, it's $250 matching up front, and
200 after the
and 200 after the project, or 250 after the project stops. So it's a total of 500, but it's work for cash. So I've actually, in my old neighborhood, we actually did this. I didn't realize what we were doing until I became a volunteer. But we came out as a group within the organization. We cleaned up around revetments and the front areas to beautify and make it more open and social, accepting, and areas in which to actually gather and bring the neighborhoods together in that phase. So, and anybody can apply. There is an application period. I believe their application period just closed.
It's typically in the early fall, and it's a great opportunity for a school, an HOA, a neighborhood to think about placemaking and how to, with an environmental twist, how to create a space or a place in where you live that's going to engage, like you guys are saying, engage people in nature, but also bring communities together. And like Tim was saying, it's a matching grant. So, you get $500 from the Clean County Commission, but your $500 contribution could be in volunteer hours, which we value at like $37 an hour. So
It goes pretty quick.
yeah, it's a pretty awesome program. Highly recommend anyone take advantage of it.
So if you want money to play with your neighbors, come
And
ask.
to make an awesome pollinator garden that people with vegetables, so you can, a community garden, it can work.
There's a lot of those.
Our next event we want to let everyone know about is our Litter and Recycling Expo, which is actually an annual event.
And it's this Saturday at War Hill High School. So we will have paper shredding, tire recycling, plastics, glass, I believe is going to be there this year also. And come on out. And we will, believe, have some CRT collection, computer and TVs, old TVs, things of that nature. We will be able to take those in. We also accept furniture. We're working with the Habitat for Humanity through right around the corner from me. Restore. Yes, the Restore will be out there collecting items for resale at the Restore Center for Habitat for Humanity. Great opportunity to get out and get rid of what you don't need. We will not, though, be taking the hazardous chemicals. Right, that will be with your local fire departments at their designated times of the year.
So it's almost a one-stop shop for everything to be diverted from landfills that you want to get rid of. So fall cleaning.
Okay, 9 to noon, War Hill High School. All right.
On Saturday.
This coming Saturday, the 20th. Okay. You all want to advertise us?
This is one of my favorite things.
This is a fun thing. All right, there are businesses out there that do really amazing work in reducing and recycling and reducing the footprint that we send to the landfill. All right, so these are 3 of our award winners from past years in 2019. All right, Trader Joe's, their paper recycling was exceptional. Charlie's Airport, what they do with their serving trays and platters and all, as well as First Watch. All right, these are local businesses that we are recognizing. We're trying to get them little stickers to put in their window to add the fact that they have been recognized by the county as members who are doing above and beyond. And if you know of somebody that is participating or has got a really good project, hey, we would like to recognize them too. So let us know. We'll show you how to let us know here in a little bit.
Yeah.
But we do want to recognize those that are doing their extra within our community. Right? And all right, so we also have Adopt a Spot. You see the signs on the road, okay? Tim's Place is taking care of this spot, all right? I believe on the map we've got 11, but I think there are closer to 20 organizations that are taking care of certain parts of our communities, walking up and down the roads, at least twice a year to pick up, recycle, and pull out. I've got a neighbor, she's had her hip replaced. She just does it for the whole neighborhood. We asked her, do you want recognition? She went, no. So I'm giving it to her, shout out to her tonight. Thank you, neighbor. All right, but she does it because she needs exercise and she got tired of looking at it. So she cleans up as she walks. So, but if you've got an organization or a Boy Scout troop, Girl Scout troop, you'd like to be recognized, get into a community activity process. This is a really simple way to do it. And we'll even help you, we'll buy the sign.
Yeah, as a teacher, this is one of the great programs that helps get kids involved in that stewardship aspect. You know, we might be talking about like really big ideas in here in this room so far tonight, but as I teach third grade, and sometimes it starts with the little like, let's go walk down the street and see what we see. Oh my gosh, look at all that trash, let's pick it up. And that Adopt a Spot program is one of the great ways to get schools involved, kids involved, your neighborhood involved in looking around and noticing human impact on the earth.
And those signs tell you who's doing it. And if you're part of that group, you're guilt by association, you get to take some credit. All right.
Keep James City County Beautiful is kind of like a umbrella organization underneath the Clean County Commission. It's a group that pairs with Keep America Beautiful, and there's a lot of initiatives within that. Plenty of community outreach within Keep James City County Beautiful. The 3 subcommittees within that group is recycling education, which works closely with WJCC public schools and minimizing waste in general. There's the Zero Tolerance for Litter group, which actually they passed a ordinance, thank you, in James City County to make it to work with, that works with the police to kind of enforce litter rules and laws. And then there's the community beautification group that's very focused on pollinators and pollinator plants locally. They've done some awesome work over at the Botanical Gardens and Freedom Park. And so there's kind of 3 aspects within Keep James City County Beautiful to get involved with. So if you're interested in volunteering, we highly recommend calling the number 757-259-5375 or emailing litter@jamescitycountyva.gov.
Okay, the Zero Tolerance has done a really good job also. I want to boost them. The fact that illegal dump sites within our county, all right, those have been a problem, but we're starting to see some results because they monitor and track and then hopefully find the individuals and convince them that this is the wrong thing to do.
All in all, you know, the Clean County Commission has we like to look back on a year. So this is sort of looking at a year in review. In 1 year, we had 60 litter cleanups, 422 volunteers come out, 1,896 volunteer hours, which were valued at $46,433. And 889 cubic yards of litter collected. So there's a tangible impact, and it might seem small in one community when people come out and donate, one Saturday of their time. We can, if enough people do that, we can really make an impact on our local ecosystem.
So the last 3 years, I've been at the scales when we do our collections, and it may not look like a whole lot, but there are tons and tons of trash that gets brought in. Even the small things can weigh a lot and it makes a big impact. So everything that we pick up or everything that we don't throw out, but recycle or replace or put appropriately makes a huge difference for all of us.
And that being said, the Clean County Commission is made, like we said before, it's made up of those volunteers willing to give up about an hour of a month to go to a meeting and to have some input, some weighing in with the county and the way the county runs things. So if you're interested at all in if you live in the county, you're interested in sustainability and helping out the environment, they're always looking for new people to be on the commission. So I think you can reach Cassie Cordova at sustainability coordinator at JamesCityCountyVA.
And we are on the James City County webpage also.
Yes.
So you can go right to the James City County webpage and look in for the CCC, and you'll find us, you'll see our pictures.
Or that email letter at jamescitycountyva.gov. You'll reach the same people, and it's definitely, you can see the value of your impact.
So come out, come play. We're fighting for volunteers, the most valuable asset we have in our county and in our communities. So we would love to have you, and you can play with us too.
Well, thanks so much, Jim, for coming out.
Thank you.
One last plug, just a take-home note. Sorry, I need to give people homework. It's my job. But Nature's Best Hope is a phenomenal book. If you're watching this because you want to figure out a way to get involved, and you might not want to necessarily join the Clean County Commission or you go back to college. Exactly. The Nature's Best Hope kind of opened my eyes to a lot of ways that I can impact my local ecosystem just in my own backyard with caring about the bugs and plants that exist around me. So just one last plug for Doug Ptolemae's book, and thanks so much for everyone for coming out. You guys are awesome.
Thank you very much. In just thinking about that, there's a lot to go off of. I wonder if students that are into the IIC would potentially be in their free time open to volunteering for the Clean County Commission too. So that might be one community collaboration to have is your extra credit. There you go.
They need.
And we've got a lot of smart people that work for us. That could potentially be a resource back to you.
Oh, that'd be great.
Networking already, see?
Well, I think at this point, we're breaking for the book talk, should anybody want to stay, but thank you all very much for coming and for presenting about some of the work that you all do. There may be a couple loyal people that stay, but no, I very much appreciate your time and hope you all have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you.